It appears we'll enter the new year without a fresh 5-year farm bill. While the House passed an extension until January 31st, the Senate hasn't shown much interest in a short-term extension, and Senate Ag Committee Chair Debbie Stabenow has said she expects a new deal by the end of January. UNL Extension Public Policy Specialist Brad Lubben joined us Wednesday to discuss the latest in Farm Bill proceedings.
Well, it's interesting. The principal leaders of the Ag committees that have been leading the conference committee effort appear to have come up with their set of principles for where the Farm Bill should go. The process still drags into January, but we seem to have some framework now for what that final Farm Bill will look like.
The House, on their own, decided to pass an extension that would get them to January 31st. The Senate said, well, no thank you for that. It
appears at the moment we'll just let the already expired 08 Farm Bill just simply remain in limbo. Theoretically, we should re-implementing the permanent legislation from 1949, starting with dairy support programs that should take effect on January 2nd. The reality is USDA can't write program rules that quickly, so there's this leeway time even into January where we could still wrap up a new Farm Bill before we really worry about that permanent legislation taking effect.
So is that a big deal if they wouldn't get that done necessarily? And obviously I'm stepping on a ledge saying they wouldn't get that done.
Well, you know, it comes to the point we've been negotiating for 2.5, 3 years, and this is finally to the point where we actually say we think we have a finished product. It's still going to take a few conference committee votes, but it appears that something can be pushed through the conference committee in early January to be voted on in both chambers before January expires. There's more optimism now perhaps than there has been in 3 years. It still faces a stiff test in both chambers.
One of the sticking points throughout this entire process was the nutrition title. Where do you think that ends up here?
Well, nutrition is one of, I think, 4 big areas where we'll see some points to remember. The nutrition title was a debate between the Senate that said we're going to cut no more than $4 billion over a 10-year period. The House originally said 20, and then in September passed a bill that said 40. How do you compromise? How do you get somewhere between 4 and 40? Well, the final principle seems to be that they're going to settle on cuts of about $8 billion, much closer to the Senate version, focused on reducing what's been called the heat and eat provision, assistance in the home energy assistance program that automatically qualifies you for a higher benefit level in the SNAP program. By restricting some of the rules for how that works, you could restrict enrollments, reduce payments, save perhaps $8 billion or more. That's one big provision that seems to settle at least the current debate on nutrition. We've got some other issues in the other areas too.
Where do you think commodity programs will end up? We've talked about this a number of times.
Right. You know, of all the options and all the discussion, we seem to be revolving right back to the original debate, price versus revenue. The House's proposal had a heavy emphasis on a price-based safety net, updating target prices. That seems to be part of the final solution. The Senate had been pushing a revenue safety net, a modification of acre. That seems to be part of the final version as well. We don't exactly know what that looks like. Is it the farm, or is it the county, or is it a choice of the two? That remains to be seen. But clearly it seems like we're going to have a basic debate. Do you want a price-based safety net, or do you want a revenue-based safety net going forward?
CRP acres will go about where, do you think?
Will go down is an easy answer here. The House had proposed a cap of 24 million acres. The Senate had proposed a cap of 25. It appears that we're going to settle around 24. That's really a recognition that the CRP has been shrinking. At least generally enrolled acres have been gradually coming out and returning to crop production. What remains in the CRP is more focused on those priority enrollments, and that seems to be the future as well.